I'm Gene from Cinnabon. You called the EMTs for me when I fainted. Yeah, I remember you. Get a lawyer!
Nick, do I detect Cinnabons?
Yeah.
Oh, Christ almighty, get him in here.
I'm sorry about the lawyer thing. I just slipped out.
Hey, what is up? So for this video, I want to talk about a very cool aspect of the storyline of Better Call Saul that was displayed to us in the previous episode entitled Nippy, surrounding the timeline of Better Call Saul as well as the timeline of Breaking Bad. Alright, so getting right into this one, following it being displayed to us in the very first scene of this series in Season 1, Episode 1 of Better Call Saul, entitled Uno, that Gene Takovic, the former Saul Goodman, was working at Cinnabon, I definitely found myself asking the question, when in the timeline of this universe does this flash forward to the life of Gene take place? And it was actually really cool for it to finally more or less be definitively revealed to us in the previous episode that this scene here in Season 6 of Better Call Saul takes place during October of 2010. And very interestingly, we know this because based on the dialogue that was displayed to us in this episode as part of Gene's scheme against the mall and the security guards in order to deal with the threat of Jeff the cab driver that was presented to us in Season 5 of Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Magic Man, we see as part of this scam, Gene ingratiating himself with these two security guards. And just as a quick side note here, this one security guard named Nick actually was the exact same person who Gene saw in Season 3 of Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Mabel, as part of the outburst he had following him witnessing the shoplifter being arrested at the mall.
Nice job.
Say nothing, you understand? Get a lawyer! Get a lawyer. Asshole.
And what's actually pretty interesting about this scene is that the actor who plays Nick is the exact same actor who portrayed this character in Season 3 of Better Call Saul, which of course needs to be noted because, as I discussed in great detail in my live stream review of this episode, it was quite jarring to see a recast of the main antagonist of this episode, Jeff the cab driver, from the actor who played him in Seasons 4 and 5 of Better Call Saul, but that is truly a discussion for a different video. But anyway, getting back into this one, during this scene here where Gene is speaking with this head security guard named Frank, we can hear them discussing in great detail the University of Nebraska Huskers football team.
So, did you catch the game last night?
The game.
Really thought this was the year.
Yeah, me too.
You know, Texas wasn't even ranked.
I know.
Well, you can't win when Martinez plays like that.
Martinez? I mean, what's up with him?
Next week, Oklahoma State.
The Okies.
And very interestingly, the very specific details in this dialogue appear to have been directly lifted from real life, as we can see by Frank stating to Gene that he thought this was the year, and that how the University of Texas Longhorn football team was not even ranked, which very interestingly in real life actually happened, where the prior to this game undefeated Nebraska Huskers football team lost to Texas, which was then followed by Frank stating that next week was Oklahoma State, which again happened verbatim in the year 2010. Because as we know from the plot of Breaking Bad, Walter White died on his 52nd birthday in September of 2010, meaning that this scene here of Gene Takovic manipulating these security guards at this mall actually took place around 1 month following Walter White's death. And again, while the timeline of Breaking Bad was riddled with inconsistencies, as I discussed in a previous video, for example, Jack Welker's notorious piece of dialogue surrounding Osama bin Laden.
You know, I gotta be straight with you, man. Taking out all these guys is doable. But hitting them in 3 separate jails all within 2 minutes? Whacking bin Laden wasn't this complicated.
In addition to this shot here of Walter White's divorce papers, which indicate that his 50th birthday took place in 2009 rather than 2008. And again, while I have discussed this in a previous video, and while we could theoretically take some artistic license to explain away these two apparent errors in the timeline, just based on this promo that was released prior to the premiere of Season 6 of Better Call Saul, of this mockumentary episode of Saul Goodman's life of American Greed, where we hear the narrator state that in the early hours of March 20th, 2010, the DEA raided Saul Goodman's office.
In the early hours of March 20th, 2010, police and DEA agents descend upon a quiet strip mall in the northeast corner of the city.
We can infer, based on everything that has been displayed to us over the course of Better Call Saul, where Saul Goodman made the call to Ed the Disappearer and said that he was red hot and needed to flee immediately during the flash forward scene, depending on your perspective, to the Breaking Bad timeline during this episode of Season 4 of Better Call Saul entitled Quite a Ride.
I need a new dust filter for my Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60. Can you help me with that? A pickup. How hot? Red hot. I know where that is. I'll be there.
And so with all these clues being displayed to us, during this scene in Season 6 of Better Call Saul, we know that Gene has been in Omaha, Nebraska for around 6 months and has actually not been there for several years, as, speaking only for myself, I thought could be a possibility when I first saw this flash forward scene to the Gene Takovic timeline in the very first episode of this series. And additionally, as another interesting side note here, due to the fact that based on all the information that was displayed to us, that this scene in this episode entitled Nippy takes place around October of 2010, we could, as a result, in the upcoming episodes, theoretically see the phone call that Saul told Francesca to take on November 12th of 2010 at 3 p.m. that was also mentioned in this aforementioned episode in Season 4 of Better Call Saul entitled Quite a Ride.
Okay, when the cops come talk to you, and they will, what are you going to tell them?
Talk to my attorney.
Yeah. Tell them Jimmy sent you. Okay, and where are you going to be November 12th at 3 p.m.?
I'll be there, but if it doesn't ring at 3 on the dot, I'm gone.
Don't worry, it's going to ring.
That being said, I've discussed this plot in more detail in a previous video that I will link in the description, including all the other details that were revealed to us in this flash forward scene, including the potential name of the lawyer that Saul gave to Francesca. So yes, this is actually pretty interesting here, where now we know that this first scene of Gene Takovic that we saw in Season 1 of Better Call Saul, in the episode entitled Uno, did not take place many years in the future following him leaving Albuquerque for Omaha, but actually occurred likely a few months or so following him arriving in Omaha. Furthermore, just as another interesting side note here, just based on the flash forward scene to the Breaking Bad timeline that occurred at the end of the episode Fun and Games, where we can see that Saul Goodman has quite a comb over in respect to his male pattern baldness. This sort of great loss of hair that Gene Takovic experienced in Omaha, Nebraska is what initially made me believe that this takes place many years in the future. But just based on the fact that this hair of Saul Goodman in many ways was cosmetic, it's likely that as a result of him maybe wanting to disguise himself further in Omaha, Nebraska, he no longer went through the trouble of doing this comb over every morning and decided to just embrace his male pattern baldness as a means of disguise in conjunction with him growing out this mustache that we saw him wear as Gene Takovic in the plot of this series. Alright, that is all I really got for you guys on this one. As always, major thank you to everyone who watches and comments on these videos. I really appreciate it. Additionally, thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. This channel hit a pretty big milestone in 5,000 subscribers yesterday. The support really means a lot. Really looking forward to making many more videos in the days and weeks to come about this 6th and final season of Better Call Saul. And as always, my name is Anton Jackson. Thank you again so much for watching this video.